Brian, 7:04, our big story this morning, the jury that convicted John Couey in the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Jessica Lunsford, must now decide whether to recommend Couey be sentenced to death. Sentencing will begin Tuesday for the man who snatched the 9-year-old from her bedroom in 2005 and eventually buried her alive. Jurors deliberated about 4 hours yesterday. Jessica's father, Mark Lunsford, says justice has been done, and because Couey showed his daughter no mercy, he should be given none in return.
There was no remorse from this man, or whatever you want to call him. I mean, no remorse at all. Welcome to the world of sexual offenders and predators. They don't care. They have no value for anything but their self.
Lunsford says his focus now will be to further tighten laws related to sex offenders. Couey himself was a registered sex offender. He was arrested 2 years ago during the search for Jessica. She had disappeared the previous month from her bedroom. The little girl's body was found about 150 yards from the home where she had been living. So what's ahead in the sentencing phase? Is there a chance Couey's attorneys might appeal? And what does his quick conviction by the jury say about the case itself? Rick Alexander is a local attorney, former prosecutor in capital and sex crimes. You've seen your share. You've got plenty of experience with these type of offenders. Rick, thanks for being with us this morning. The swift verdict by the jury, 4 hours, although a lot of people would argue they could have figured it out in about 30 minutes. What does that tell you about this?
I think the verdict at 4 hours, particularly on a big homicide like this with a lot of evidence, I think that just shows deliberate, that they were deliberate about things. Some verdicts come in very quickly. Others can take days. I don't think they were hung up too much on the evidence. They probably went through, took a poll. Maybe some people felt like he was guilty, but they wanted to go through some of the evidence. A 4-hour verdict sounds pretty normal.
Pretty okay to you?
Pretty expected.
Couey allegedly confessed, but because he didn't have access to an attorney, that confession was thrown out.
Right.
Yet, yesterday we kept hearing, or the day before I should say, we kept hearing about the jail guards who heard that alleged confession. Why was that admitted into evidence?
Well, it sounds to me, and of course I didn't actually see the evidence put on, but when he's brought in and he's interviewed, if they don't give him his rights, that gets thrown out, which is actually good now for the prosecution that that's thrown out, because that's an appeal they don't have.
Absolutely, and they also had strong evidence
Right.
which to link him there too.
Now, as far as he can confess again. He's been given his rights later, and if he's, my understanding is they brought him, they got him some hot chocolate or something like that, and he started talking again. Well, once he's been given his rights, and if he continues to talk, then that becomes admissible. It sounds like what happened.
We heard about Couey's activities sitting at the table there in court. He was drawing.
Right.
At one time, he was actually coloring in a dinosaur coloring book.
Yes.
Do you think that'll set up the defense to appeal based on the ground that maybe Couey is not mentally up to snuff?
I doubt it. What they have the opportunity to appeal on is judicial rulings that are in error. And the fact is, the defense put on a doctor that said he's mentally retarded, that he's not capable of making these kinds of decisions. The jury heard the evidence, and they're the finders of fact. They didn't believe it. There may be some issues that pop up around that they can appeal. And with a capital conviction, if it turns out to be a death penalty case, they will appeal and appeal and appeal, and they get a lot of opportunities because the state doesn't want to execute someone who's innocent. So.
Right. Okay, tell me about Mark Lunsford, Jesse's dad. He was pretty stoic when the verdict was read. In your experience, what do victims and their family members go through in these cases?
It is a brutal process because one of the things that prosecutors have to do is put up evidence. You have to persuade the jury, and a lot of times that involves pictures. But even if it doesn't, it's just you're rehashing the whole experience again. It brings it back. They go through the process, and these people have it's brutal.
And it certainly was a horrific case. I know many of the jurors broke down sobbing when the pictures were presented of Jesse in those garbage bags. All right, Rick Alexander, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate your insight. And stay with Channel 4. We'll continue to follow this case to the end. You can also see the archive of stories leading to John Couey's conviction on news4jax.com. Look for the headline on the front of the webpage. Well, Bruce has more details and headlines, starting with a new plan by Democrats in the political battle over Iraq. Bruce?
It's going to be a